You're listening to Choose FI Radio. The blueprint for financial independence lives here. If you're looking to unlock the secrets to financial independence and early retirement, you're in the right place. Stay tuned and join a community of like-minded people who are getting off the hamster wheel and taking control of their lives in the pursuit of financial independence. Choose FI, your home for financial independence online.
Hello and welcome to the Choose FI Radio podcast. Today on the show, we're going to be featuring our second entrepreneurial case study. To set the stage, we did our first entrepreneurial case study in episode 92 of our podcast with Will Boland from Carlots, and it was such an incredibly well-received episode that we knew this is something that we wanted to continue to do. And in my mind, there was no more obvious choice than talking to our good friend Craig Attkinson from GreenSide Up Landscaping. Now, to set the frame here, Craig I have met over the last several years. He's become a good friend inside the Choose FI local Richmond group. But aside from this wonderful business that he's been able to build since 2004, he's one of the most hardcore optimizers I've ever met. And I think with this particular episode, we're going to be able to explore this idea of engineering your life. To help me with this, I have my co-host Brad here with me today. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Jonathan, I'm doing quite well. Yeah, this should be a real treat. Craig is just a fantastic guy. He has a really, really interesting life story and FI story that's going to cover everything from business building to a life of adventure to tiny houses to, it just goes on and on and on. And what's really interesting is I've known Craig for 12 years. I actually had Craig's company, and Craig specifically, come and give us an estimate on a landscaping project way back in 2006. And we liked Craig so much at the time that we hired their company specifically because we liked Craig. So it's just such a funny story that he emailed us in 2017 and said, hey, I listened to your podcast. And it just absolutely small world story. And yeah, I'm just excited to introduce Craig to the FI community. And with that, Craig, welcome to the show.
Great. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Craig, you graduated in 2003, and I assume you got a degree in agriculture?
Yeah, 2 degrees, one in turf grass and one in horticulture. I wanted to ensure that I stayed outside in my career.
Okay. So you graduate, though, and on day one, you don't have a business. You're just a guy with a degree, but you didn't make the choice to just go get a job with someone else. You decided to start from scratch. Is that right?
No, right out of college, I thought I was going to be in a golf course world my entire life. Wanted to be a superintendent of a golf course. So I started off my career on the golf course. And after a certain amount of time, I got frustrated with that industry, working long hours and low pay, and decided to make the transition to start my own business.
So you're saying that basically the golf course industry, that's a stagnant industry. Like, how did you hit that awakening or that burnout moment where you said, I got to go a different path?
The epiphany was me is, working all these hours and working on the weekends. Ultimately, my job was to make the superintendent look really good on the golf course. So I was just working way too many hours. I was just doing turf grass work. I wasn't doing anything with my degree with horticulture. I love plants too, so I wanted to be able to use that aspect also. So I just reached a point where I talk to myself and say, ultimately, I'm not going to have any more liability than I have right now in my life. So I might as well just start my own gig.
So what's the economic frame for where you were at then? I mean, is this a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 and making median income? Like, how much were you making back in these days?
I was making $26,500 and I was working Monday through Friday. And then every other weekend I had to be on the golf course all weekend.
What was it like to walk away? I mean, did you have any sort of financial runway? Were you able to maintain any sort of level of savings rate while you were doing this?
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask this question. It's not that sexy. I started cutting grass when I was 10 years old and I saved every dime until I was 20. And I spent it all on a weekend, bought a truck, a trailer, and a mower. Sent out some business letters to some people around the golf course that I knew and jumped off.
So Craig, what does that actual decision look like? You're probably 23, 24, maybe at the oldest. You've been saving this money for your whole life and you get to that breaking point. But what does that actually look like when you decide to buy this truck and trailer and mower? Talk us through the actual thought process.
It was terrifying. I'm not going to lie to you. It wasn't as thought out as I would have done it now, but I had one job lined up, a big mulching job, and I had a couple contracts for maintenance. So I knew that I could make it through the first month. I was still living at home at the time. So I knew I could, the worst case scenario, I could just stay at the house. But from that standpoint, I didn't have any runway. I went all in to make it work.
So you didn't have any runway, but it sounds like you capped your downside, really, right? You're probably 24, you're living at home. You had some of these small contracts, I guess, but what could your life have cost at that point? Like you said, you didn't have any major liabilities. This was the time to do it.
Correct. I didn't have any kids. I didn't have a wife. I didn't have anything like that. Ultimately, I wanted to go out and see if I could do it on my own. I didn't want to look back at my life and say, man, I wish I would have at least given it a shot. But that was what I needed to do at the time.
So Craig, it's maybe hard to put yourself back in that spot now. So many years later, you have one of the biggest landscaping companies in Virginia. You have multiple crews, but back then it was literally just you. You were 24 years old. What does that look like? How do you go drum up business? How do you feel confident in yourself that you could walk into someone's residence or their business and say, hey, I'm the guy for you?
Yeah, it was terrifying. We had I had to wear every hat in the company. So I had to sell the work. I had to land the work. I had to bill the work after it was done. I had to do the work also. It's one of those situations where you have to fake it till you make it. Sometimes I would not. I mean, I knew I had all the book knowledge, but I didn't have in the field knowledge is what needed to happen when. I didn't work for a big landscaping company to learn how other landscapers did it. So I was going from the golf course world straight into the landscape world, which there are two different worlds. Sometimes I would try to sell the job and go home and they would ask me a specific question I didn't know the answer to, and I'd go home and Google it and find out the answer. And during the meeting, I'd say, hey, I'll get back with you. I need to just confirm a couple things. And I'd Google it up and shoot them back the answer on an email.
Within the first year or within the first couple months, I'm just trying to think of these inflection points. In the early days, you're doing everything. You're wearing all of the hats. Did you find your partner right away? Did you find your crew right away? How long did it take you to actually have a team as opposed to, hey, Craig, I do it all?
I had an off and on crew for the first 2 years. And after 2 years, I really hit a breaking point where I couldn't efficiently wear every hat in the company. I needed to be able to continually sell. I found myself in a cycle where I would get a lot of work and I'd be focusing on getting a lot of the work done, but I'd let my sales drop off. And then by the time I got all the work done, I couldn't sell anymore because we didn't have the work to do. So I approached my first partner who worked on the golf course with me. Essentially, he asked for a salary for doing the work, and I agreed to this salary, even though I hadn't pulled a salary in 2 years off the company. I said, but you're going to have to help me figure out a way to sell enough work to get this all done. So he jumped in the role of getting the work done and the production side of things, and I took on the role of selling the work and marketing the company.
So when you approached him that first time to come on board, was it as a partner? Was it as like a 50-50 partner, or did it boil down to him getting a salary and not having a percentage of the company? How did that work?
No, I wanted someone who had invested interest in what we were doing. I felt like if I didn't have someone invested in what I was doing, then he wouldn't give it 110%. So I guaranteed him a salary. I gave him 50% of the company, and he brought in a little bit of equity into the company that we could buy some additional equipment to expand our company. We bought a dump truck, a skid steer, a trailer to be able to do some larger scale projects. And that's how we used that equity to expand our company.
And was that initial pitch to him, was it, hey, we've got something that's growing, or was it that plus I can't do all this alone? There are a lot of people out there who have their small businesses. They maybe have reached that breaking point that you did where you're doing everything and they need to find someone else to help them. How did you approach that mentally, and how did you approach that in the actual conversation with your partner?
Yeah, he was my boss on the golf course, and he had actually hired me on a previous job as he hired me as an intern. So from that standpoint, I knew his personality. He is exceptional in managing people. I don't like hiring and firing. I don't like some of the day-to-day stuff that goes on with employee actions and getting stuff done. And I know he excelled in that. I'm really good on the business side of things. I'm really good on the sales side of things. So I knew it was a personality that worked perfectly with mine after having worked with him. It was kind of a blessing in that standpoint. When I left the golf course, before I left, I said, in 2 years, I'm going to bring you on a partner. And he laughed it off. One of the other aspects was he was still in the golf course industry. He had been there 2 additional years. the golf course industry still hadn't been moving. He was anticipating being a superintendent of a golf course by that time, and it just didn't happen. And he didn't see any light at the end of the tunnel.
I'm thinking back to like 2004, 2005, basically when you and Brad bumped into each other for the first time. And to kind of contrast that, you're one of the largest landscaping companies in Virginia, and people, I would imagine, find you in large degree now due to word of mouth, just because you have been a known entity for a while. But back then, I mean, are you knocking on doors? This is kind of like, I wouldn't say it's pre-internet, but it's definitely pre-Facebook ads. What gets you those contracts? You stated that I would have to alternate between lining up the work, and then before I brought my business partner on, then I was having to do the work, and then I'd kind of go back and forth, and it kind of slowed things down. But when you brought your partner on and now you're just in this business development role, how were you able to go about finding consistent work? What moved the needle for you? I think this is something that a lot of small business owners are grappling with.
Yeah, the internet wasn't big back then. I wish it was, because it would have made my life a whole lot easier. I am not the type of person that wants to cold call a person. I know a lot of people do. That's not me. First thing I did was tackle all my family and friends and all their family and friends that, if I could work that network in any single way that I could, or anybody that wanted something, I think that worked out well. I got a list through a service that provided me people's income above a certain amount with their email address or their address. And I sent them personal business letters saying, hey, I'm a new business in the area. I'd love to be able to help you out. That evolved to, I know this is going to sound prehistoric, I was in 3 different phone books, multiple ads. I mean, we were spending $4,000 a month on phone books at one point to move the needle. Luckily, that's gone away. And now we've moved into the internet era. And I have a marketing firm now that plans our social media, plans our email blast to everyone, and handles all our SEO work for our website, handles the pay-per-click stuff for Google. So it's really evolved over the years.
And the other thing that strikes me, in particular with landscaping, you managed to do something remarkable. I mean, landscaping crews are everywhere. I mean, I see them all over my neighborhood, but it seems like hitting the upper limit is getting that one crew in place. But you have multiple crews, and you've been able to scale so effectively. You're kind of an outlier in your space. How does that happen? What do you think you did, or what processes do you look back on that gave you this outsized result?
I'm not going to lie to say that having a partner and someone to bounce ideas off of really helps. Also, having peer groups. We started a big peer group with landscapers several years back that we're not in competition with each other. We're all over the state of Virginia, but it's so great to see how someone else is doing it. And you're like, oh my gosh, that makes a whole lot of sense. Now I don't have to waste all that time and energy to figure out how to do it. I already know from people who have used it. And here's the keys to we know how to do it, So using that information really helped us scale. The average landscaper doesn't get over one crew. So I think they do $250,000 on average a year. My role in this company has changed multiple times, from doing it all myself to just doing the sales to now managing a whole bunch of crews. From that standpoint, that hurdle of getting over that one crew is the biggest by far.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it strikes me that by bringing this partner on, you were able to move from working in your business to on it. That there's a saying, and I'm just going to re-say it, right? Work on your business, not in it. For you, if you were to think about what you actually did, what did that look like for you? How did you get yourself out of the weeds and actually focus on growing and scaling?
It's all about systems. You have to have good systems in place that tell the crews what they're expected to get accomplished, and having good people in key positions. So I have an operations manager who runs our maintenance division. He's using a good piece of software that is giving the crews vital information to be able to do their job and give them goals, key metrics that they're trying to hit on every single job. Once I started telling the crews exactly what I was expecting, the time, the budgeted time that they were supposed to hit on each project, once they knew what I was selling, it changed my entire company. Our efficiency went through the roof. If you just tell a crew to go on a job and get something done, they could milk it for hours. But if I'm telling them, you go to the job and you have this many man hours to get this job accomplished, they're going to try to hit that number every single time. Now I've tied it to their incentive bonus. So if they want to get a bonus every quarter, some of that money is directly proportional to how they're hitting those numbers.
Craig, that's amazing. So I want to dive into this a little more. How did you hit on this? Was this something that you figured out right after you took your partner on board, or did this evolve over years? How did you come to this realization? A, it's all about systems, and B, like that incentive bonus. And actually, explaining what you're expecting from your crews. This is the meat. I'd love for you to talk about it more.
At some point, you can't keep it all in your head. So I knew that I had to find a system that I could store everything that was in my head that needed to get done. Every customer has some touch point that makes them tick. So I had to find a system, and I went through quite a few systems. I had to find a system that I could store everything that customer told me. Then the crews could actually translate into the work in the field. So I went through a couple systems and got a system that worked well. And now we can dispatch all our crews. I can see where there are real time right now from my desk and see, how we're hitting our numbers or not hitting our numbers. And it's actually great from if I'm still in the sales role here, if I can see that I constantly am bidding something incorrectly because the crew continually doesn't hit those numbers, then I know that I need to change that number when their contract renews or, bidding jobs similar to that in the future.
That's amazing. So this really is a fully integrated business. This is not just like a generic landscaping business that has one truck. I mean, you're talking about essentially having an operations center that you can see in real time where your guys are, how much time they're taking. That's amazing to me.
Yeah. When the crew pulls up to a job, they press start on their smartphone. And at every note that customer's ever told me, they have to click that they read it. After they click through that, they will be able to see how long with the size crew that they have that they need to be on that job to complete that job. And when they hit finish, all that information comes right to my desk. Now, if we're putting in plants or we're putting in sod, it sends people automatically. Again, it makes me look like $1 million. It automatically sends or emails the customer that all their information's in our system, watering instructions or, how to care for the new plants and stuff like that. So everything is automated now to where it makes me look really good.
That is so cool. So you said everything that's in my head is now in this system. I have a couple questions about that. So what's the actual process of you writing that down? Are you doing this reliably every single time you talk to a customer? Like, is this become part of your process that you finish the conversation and then you go to your computer straight away? Because I assume that you would forget something if you waited until the end of the day or the end of the week. Like, talk me through that process. And also, do your crews have the ability to enter information themselves as well? Because they're there with the homeowners when you're not many times.
Yeah. So when I'm meeting with the customer, I'm gathering as much information. And one of my points that I ask is, if they're changing maintenance providers, why are you changing? What didn't work for the last people? What are your touch points? And then I'm writing those down on that sheet. So if they sign a contract with me, when I'm putting in this information, I can put that into the system. And when the crew is there, they have a lot of interaction with the customer. So they have the ability on this program to type in something that on their smartphone on the job, and it will come back in a big yellow box will come across our screen saying, the customer wants this to be scheduled shortly, or, there's an irrigation leak, reach out to the customer to handle all that. So all that it's all real time.
So in 2004, it's just Craig, doing this all himself, wearing all the hats. Now, how many crews are you running and how many people are on your team?
So we've skipped over one aspect of it. I do have a third partner. We started a Williamsburg branch 2 years after I brought on my other partner. So he brought on equity into the company and we've started a branch in Williamsburg. So we run 3 crews from there. And currently we're running 8 crews out of Richmond.
So creating a new job for yourself and creating a business are kind of two different things. The business relies on essentially the revolver test. Can you revolve yourself out of it? And it strikes me that, Brad, one of the things he led with earlier in this episode was the reason we chose GreenSide up was Craig's personality, Craig's enthusiasm, his honesty, his trustworthiness. We just knew this was the guy that we wanted to work with. But you've built a business and it has significant scale. And I have to imagine that at some point, part of building a business would be, does this work without me? And have you kind of bumped into that, both being the identity behind the business and then also trying to implement that revolver test?
Yeah, it's a struggle to constantly evolve the business. We're always trying to put better systems in place to see where we want to go in the future. We do a lot of strategic planning with the business on how we're trying to get where we're trying to get to. So we have where are we right now? Where we want to be in 6 months? Where do we want to be in a year? And we have honestly been implementing that slowly, which is great and exciting, but there's aspects that we really struggle with. How do I get the personal touch with my customers if I'm not the one selling? How do I make myself obsolete, essentially? I have kind of this weird goal of being the mechanic in my own company. But in order to do that, I've got to get rid of some of the other tasks that I need to do. It's never finished. It's always something we're working on.
So, Craig, you've been the one marketing and selling for 14 years now. I know you want to live a FI life, and you can't do that for the next 50 years. That doesn't make sense. That's not the long-term success for GreenSide Up. So eventually you have to relinquish that and move on. Have you actually started that? Do you have your other business partners? Do you have members of your team working on drumming up new business and doing marketing? And how are you tracking the metrics of that?
So in part of our strategic plan is to, at some point, myself and my two partners will all be in the sales role. Right now, it's me. I am selling for the Richmond area. One of my other partners sells in the Williamsburg area, but he kind of wears two hats currently in Williamsburg, where he's doing production and sales. It's kind of a split personality type of situation. It's difficult. So our goal is to have all three owners just completely in the sales role, and we're working towards that. We've taken a lot of the things out of my head again for the marketing of the business. So I've hired a marketing firm that I don't have to worry about, putting out this, making sure the social media is going out, or the newsletter, or the Google is all dialed in. There are people that are professionals that are doing that. I'm just writing them a check to make sure that we are very visible. I think long term, we need to just put SOPs in place for a person who could sell. The biggest challenge we face is having someone who has the knowledge of all the different aspects that we do. It's not like we sell one little widget. I can train somebody how to talk about that one little widget. We sell landscape maintenance, where we have to know about all our plant knowledge, all our turf knowledge. We also sell hardscapes and patios and fireplaces and stuff like that. So we have to have all our hardscaping knowledge of what's possible, what's not, and be able to put together design. So it's not really like an easy role that you can just roll somebody into, but it is our long-term play.
It strikes me that as your team and systems have been put in place, and as your team has grown, you start to be able to benefit from scale, and in particular economies of scale. And I know that you're an optimizer. We're going to explore a few of the ways that you've optimized your personal life, but I wanted to talk about the business. Could you talk about, just for a few minutes, about a few things that you've done as your company has grown that, maybe the hardcore optimizers in the FI community would get a kick out of?
Yeah, a little bit of economy of scale in any kind of business. You're not just, in our business, we have a lot of trucks that we use for our crews to be able to service the properties. And you go from trying to get a truck every other year to getting a truck every year to getting multiple trucks every year. And you can really kind of work your vendors on how that works. Ordering plants, when you have enough volume, ordering plants from a nursery, there's the retail price, there's the wholesale price, and then there's the better than wholesale price. You can work those avenues. We have a lot of trucks that roll out of our shop, and I'm trying to watch man hours very closely. So I was like, how can I avoid our guys spending a lot of time going to the store in the morning, getting their egg biscuit and, filling up the fuel. So I'm bringing the fuel to our shop. That would eliminate man hours that are wasted. It will also give me a little bit of a discount on the actual price of the fuel. So those are just a couple aspects a couple examples to show what we were talking about.
Just to highlight this, basically the line at Wawa's when I check in there in the morning, instead of someone having to go get fuel for the truck there and getting the egg biscuit, the day starts at the actual shop. They just pick up the truck. It's already got the fuel and they go from there, which cuts out that excess time. Is that what I'm understanding?
Correct. It's already part of their incentive bonus that they cannot stop at a store before 11 in the morning. Everyone stops in the store in the morning to get fuel and stuff like that. Every crew other than ours. If you stop at the store before 11 o'clock, you're getting dinged on your incentive bonus. I want you to come back at the end of the day to be able to, when crews are coming in sporadically at the end of the day. So that's when you can fuel up and go from there. I don't want to do what everybody else is doing at the same time. I'm losing money that way.
Craig, how did your guys react to this incentive bonus? I think that to me is one of the most fascinating parts of what you've talked about. There are multiple aspects of this incentive bonus. And I want to hear you talk about how they reacted when you first implemented it. And B, how far does this extend? You've talked about a couple instances where they have incentive bonuses, but I suspect there's more.
Yeah, it went over well. You tell a crew member that they have the ability to make more money. All you have to do is these simple things. So they have their normal salary or hourly wage that they're making. So I can't touch that. That's what we've agreed upon to pay. But if it's a bonus, I have the ability to take it away. So our foremans have the ability to make $500 a quarter, and our crew leaders or our crew members have the ability to make $300 a quarter. It's simple stuff like making sure that you show up to the shop on time, making sure that you're wearing the right uniform, making sure you don't stop at the store, making sure the trucks are clean. Just simple stuff that you should be doing anyway. And my goal is to incentivize you to do exactly what I want. We've gotten to a point where sometimes the normal wage doesn't talk as much as it should, and you need a little extra push to make sure these guys are doing exactly what they should.
How have you determined what the incentive bonus should be? And also, how often do you add, or I guess not remove, but do you add different items that they have to check off of, not going to the store, et cetera?
We're constantly monitoring it. And typically the first of every year, I've made a list as we go along of things that we want to change or how the bonus is structured. And it's been a learning process, and this has gone on for 2 years now. It's evolved greatly since we started, but you got to start somewhere. So just start at it and see if it's getting the results you want. If it's not, then you need to change it. If it's too easy, then you need to change it. If it's too hard and people lose interest, you need to change it. So that's some takeaways that we've learned from it.
Man, this has been awesome. I truly get excited about learning about how people have built businesses, in particular, how they built them from scratch and how they focused on these inflection points and scale and grow. I'm curious, really, talking about your timeline, it sounds to me like you found entrepreneurship long before you found the financial independence community. And I'm curious, how did you find the FI community, and what impact has that had on, frankly, your values and the way you're living your life? Was this basically something you were already doing and it gave it a language, or did it focus it?
I had a advisor who I was throwing a lot of money to, but the fees were, I just hated paying. I seen those fees go out every quarter, and I was like, man, if I just spend a little bit of time, I'm one of those DIY people. I want to be able to figure out how to do this. And I was like, man, if I just had the time, I could figure out how to do this and not have to pay him to do what he's doing. That's what got me looking down the rabbit hole of all the stuff on the internet. I found Mr. Money Mustache. I'm like, oh man, I even brought that up to the advisor, and I think he played it off that he didn't know what it was all about. But I think he after the fact, when I pulled my funds from him, he's like, you will do much better doing what you're doing than how I was with him.
Wow. So wait. Your advisor, as you were pulling the funds, said you're going to be doing much better than you were with me?
He said, well, that's where all my stuff is what he told me.
What? So he didn't have you invested the same way he had himself invested?
Correct.
Gotta love financial advisors. That's amazing. What kind of insane high fee or high load products did he have you in? Do you remember?
Well, the management fee was 1.5%, and then some of the expense ratios were up as much as 2. So it was rough. Honestly, I didn't even know about the fee component of it until I was looking into it. And I was just more frustrated with the fact that I would throw in money all the time, and it would sit in cash for a long period of time until he felt like it needed to be moved in with a certain investment. I'd rather it just be working all the time for me. That's really what got me off the seat. I didn't even know the fee structure until I looked into this further.
That is amazing. I don't know how you look yourself in the mirror every single day going to work and putting people in investments that you wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. I mean, that's crazy to me.
Yeah. This led to having a real direction in my life where I always knew I was conservative. I always knew I was storing a lot of money away for different aspects, but this is kind of gave me a direction where, like, holy smokes, there's other people like me. And now I get it. And now I know what to do. So I pushed the gas down and went.
Do you remember what your thought process was before you found Mr. Money Mustache in the FI community? What were you saving money for? Was it just because you had been instilled with this? And I ask because this sounds very similar to my own life. I never had any particular direction, but I'm curious, did you think about retiring at some point? Was it, I'm saving money to buy X, Y, and Z? Or what was your thought process all those years you were saving money?
I don't know that I'd put that much thought into it as far as why I was saving. I just knew that my ultimate goal in life is not to have to ever worry about money. So I knew if that was going to be my goal, that I had to have enough of it to not have to worry about it.
No, that makes perfect sense and very similar to where I was coming from. Do you have a sense of what your savings rate was before you found FI, and I guess what changes you've made after and what your savings rate is now?
I don't know before. I just know, I'm not a spendy person. Well, I'm not a spending person personally. You have to spend in my business to be able to grow. So I don't own a personal vehicle. I use a company truck from our fleet of vehicles that we have. There's a lot of efficiencies with that I've kind of used personally. The company has a cell phone plan. The company pays for all my fuel. The company pays for the insurance that I have. I mean, the list goes on and on for those efficiencies. So that allows my personal life to be very efficient. I'd say we're 75 to 80% efficient. And that's roughly where my savings rate is, because I just don't have any of those things that I have to pay for on a monthly basis.
All right. So to clarify, Craig, you're hitting a 70 to 80% savings rate. And part of that is the fact that you have been able to leverage the fact that you have a business to basically cover a lot of those expenses. So basically, by being a business owner, you have a lot more flexibility with the tax code than a W-2 employee does. And your particular business has very generous benefits, including a car for transportation, cell phone, et cetera, et cetera. And on top of that, it's allowing you to hit a 70 to 80% savings rate. Am I caught up to this point?
That is correct.
Okay. Have you been able to come up with anything interesting in terms of a housing arrangement?
Yes. So ultimately, I live in a small apartment that I've designed that's part of my sister's house. So from that standpoint, it's a small, essentially it's a tiny house. It's 500 square feet. And it's 100 yards from our shop where my business is located.
All right. So I got to confess, I have seen your tiny home and it's amazing. It's the coolest thing that I've ever seen. And I've seen your home because we had a Choosify local meetup there relatively recently, which was the most epic Richmond meetup I've ever seen. I mean, it was so much fun. 50 to 70 people, just meaning just west of the Short Pump area on a nice, beautiful farm property with a bonfire that reached into the heavens for total ascendancy. But I would like to kind of go back to the point where a lot of your headquarters, is that actually located on the farm as well?
It is. Yep. It's located on my family farm.
There's some additional benefits, I would think, about having your business, the headquarters for your business also being in your home. Has that been able to tie into any of your economies of scale type optimization strategies?
So we run a virtual office, so we don't have an actual place where people come, and we don't meet customers on a certain location. We all meet them at their house because that's where all the work is being done. I just run a small little desk from my tiny house that runs the whole organization, and my partners have their desk at their house. So it's not like we need to have some showy, fancy place that we kind of show off all our work. I mean, most of our stuff is in pictures that then we can show the customers when we're at their house. So from that standpoint, it's pretty nice. We help my family with the taxes. Our GreenSide Up helps pay for the taxes, and that as a part of our rent for using the farm. But it also allows the farm to be active. Otherwise, farming is kind of gone by the wayside. It helps both myself and my family at the same time.
Let's talk about the tiny house just for a second. You have a tiny house, but you're not exactly a tiny guy. You're at least 6'3". Talk us through that decision to downsize into a 500 square foot space.
Yeah, I read the article from J.L. Collins about why your house is a terrible investment. I owned a house for 14 years, and I was like, man, I just need to change this up and maybe rent. So I moved kind of halfway back to the farm in Ashland and rented a house, and we really loved that. At the time, my sister had sold her house and was going to build a house here on the farm also. She was almost getting ready to break ground, and I was looking at the plans, and I noticed over the garage they weren't going to finish that out. So we worked with them to essentially create a small apartment.
All right, Craig. So your shop and all your vehicles, all the fuel is 100 yards from your tiny house. You live on top of your sister's house, right? As I'm understanding it. And you personally designed this tiny house? I mean, were you part of the building of this? Talk me through that process, because I think you're kind of underselling it here. I also have seen your tiny house, and it's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. It's gorgeous, beautifully designed. Like, really talk us through the meat of how does this come about? What does the conversation look like when you talk to your sister? Hey, can we build a house on top of your house? That's not a conversation everybody has. And how do you go about designing and building this thing?
Yeah, my girlfriend would ask the same question. I just woke up in the middle of the night one night. I'm like, man, I think let me just try this out. So my first iteration of this design was just a rectangle with a bed in the middle. And I said, what do you think about doing this as the tiny house? And both my sister and my girlfriend were like, you're going to need to work on that a little bit if that's going to ever happen. I literally, I design landscapes for a living. So had put it in my landscape software and just started designing. And I think there was maybe 15 to 20 different designs that I tried out to where I thought it would actually work. And then once I got to a point there, then I took it to a draftsman and he drafted it up. So for $250, I had a set of plans that we could retrofit, the house that hadn't been built yet. And it worked out for both of us.
Oh, so your sister's house wasn't built at this point. So this happened concurrently with the building. Is that what I'm hearing?
I don't remember the exact timing, but within a month of them breaking ground, all this happened at the same time. So they broke ground and I kind of approached them about this concept of this little tiny apartment.
And I want to stress that in my mind, it doesn't appear that this is about extreme frugality as much as it is about perfect utilization and basically optimizing and engineering your life. Is that fair?
I'm an efficiency freak in every aspect of my life, whether it's a business or personal. I would just want to make sure that it has if I have it, it needs to serve a purpose.
And you've given me a tour of your home and you're getting every single square foot space is something that's being used. There's no wing of the house that you just don't walk into or you're separate. Like it's just every room in this 500 square foot space has a very guided purpose.
That is correct. Yeah, it was very well thought out. I mean, if you think about it, a normal house is big and a lot of people get hung up on the master bed or the kitchen or the master bath. Well, I put that same level of detail to the entire thing. It's about the same size as like a kitchen, so I had to think about everything. I wanted to have a washer and dryer up here. We needed closet space. We wanted to have a living/kitchen area. My girlfriend had an idea of having a covered deck outside. So I was like, man, that's easy. It's cheaper to have just kind of a covered deck outside than building out a bigger area. And we love it. We live out there.
Tiny homes have never been something that have appealed to me until I saw yours. And then suddenly I was jealous. I was like, I get it. I suddenly got it when I saw your tiny home. This is a space, a small space that has been engineered perfectly. And you use every bit of it all day long. It's just, it's well done, man.
I appreciate it. Yeah. I heard a study once that a lot of people move from their big house that's 2,500 square foot, 3,000 square foot down. They go down to 125 or, something extreme. But they found out that a couple of studies that 500 was roughly where the perfect medium was. So that's where I shot for.
So Craig, these optimizations, talk us through a couple that you're just really proud of. Obviously, this is a 500 square foot place and you're living your lives there. Talk us through, like I said, a couple of these that really worked. And are there any items that you feel like you kind of maybe went awry with or that you are continuing to optimize or looking to optimize?
Yeah, we've been in here for 8 to 9 months. The biggest thing that I didn't know, I'm pretty proud of the fact that there's a little hip roof that goes from the garage to the house. And that's honestly where my office is located. It was just kind of a little nook. It's 4 feet wide by 6 feet wide. And that's where my office is. That's all GreenSide up is a small little nook. The kitchen is very efficient and well thought out. I mean, there's some efficiencies with having stuff that's very small. Like I've got a granite countertop that normally would be really expensive, but this is just remnants from someone else's enormous kitchen that I just got the leftovers and it looks amazing and no one could tell the difference. I built the bed in a purpose-built bed in our bedroom that has a lot of drawers underneath the bed. So that's essentially our closet.
So your tiny home looks perfect from the outside, and now you've been there 8 or 9 months. Were there any harsh realities of downsizing from 2,500 square foot down to 500 square foot, and now having lived it for 8 to 9 months, or did you nail it?
Honestly, I feel pretty good about where we're at. I don't want to say that we nailed it because I'm sure there's something that'll pop up, but I have no major complaints whatsoever. In fact, the most freeing aspect of it was getting rid of so much stuff that I didn't know that I didn't need.
And to be fair, I doubt that anybody that was even at that local meetup that we just did, Get the Farm, I doubt that anybody even realizes that your actual living space is less than 500 square foot. It's kind of like you were able to minimize your living space has allowed you to enjoy really the amazing, incredible property that you actually live on.
Yeah. I wanted a space that really we can enjoy when we need to be inside, but really forced us outside to be on the deck, to be out and around the farm. That was the whole purpose.
So Craig, we've put a lot of emphasis on the pursuit of financial independence being frankly, just as important as actually reaching it, then it seems to me that you have engineered your life and it isn't really dependent on a FI number. I'm curious, does that resonate with you, or are you still actively pursuing 25X? Like, where are you at on this spectrum?
I mean, technically I would be fine now, but honestly, it doesn't matter to me. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I'm enjoying the challenge of running a business. We have, goals that I'm trying to hit, and we have everything automated from our personal life standpoint. So I have all the right principles in place, but the timing is not that important.
So Craig, you have this business going, it's thriving. It's, like we said, one of the biggest landscaping companies in Virginia. You're living in this tiny house. Your life expenses don't cost that much. You're at FI, but there's always more, right? You're an optimizer. You're a guy who goes on adventures. Talk me through what's next. What does your life look like?
Big fan of travel. I really enjoy it. And if I don't have something planned, I feel like I'm a hamster in a wheel, just continually doing the same thing every single day. I want stuff that's really exciting. The next adventure that I've got planned, I leave very shortly to go to Chile for a month, to go climbing in Patagonia, doing a little touring around there also. Next summer, we're planning to go to Norway for a couple of weeks, biking through Norway. So it's always something on the docket. That's why I'm trying to put systems in my business so I don't want to necessarily get away from the business, but I do want to have the aspect to be able to get away from it a little bit, to kind of recharge my batteries and then come back to it.
And you've shared with me just a few of your experiences and some of the travels that you've put together, not just for yourself, but also for groups. And you guys have just done some really, really incredible stuff. Now, on most shows, that would be the end of the episode. But Craig, on this show, we would love to give you the chance to tackle the hot seat. Are you ready for this?
Let's do it.
In a world drowning in debt and rampant consumption, trapped by the chains of lifestyle inflation, these questions highlight the secrets of those who have broken free. Welcome to the Choose FI Hot Seat.
All right, Craig, your favorite blog?
I'm going to have to use Mr. Money Mustache, as that was the one who got me going.
All right. Question number 2, your favorite article of all time?
We referenced this earlier, but the J.L. Collins, Why Your House is a Terrible Investment, that really blew my mind when it comes to home ownership.
Yeah, it's crazy. Not only did you read that article, but you actually sold your house and moved into a tiny house that you built. I know Jim listens to every episode. I can't wait to hear his reaction when he hears that.
And Brad, I remember offline at some point you basically said to me, Craig is the first person I've ever met who actually read that article and then immediately sold their house and did something about it.
Yeah, it's so cool. I mean, Craig is living the FI lifestyle to like the nth degree. It's beautiful.
The knowledge is useless if you don't do something with it.
I'll write that down, Brad.
Yeah, that's profound, Craig.
All right, Craig, we got question number 3 for you. Your biggest life hack.
I think business ownership is my biggest life hack, just using the optimizations of business and kind of using some of those personal expenses to use through business expenses.
Yeah, Brad, can we get Choose FI to give me a company cell phone? We need to hop on that, man.
I thought you were going to go for a company car or something.
Well, I just know my accountant's pretty conservative. I got to tone it down.
Yes.
I'm working my way up to that. 2019 goals.
Oh, that's funny. All right, Craig, your biggest financial mistake.
I think rephrasing the question a little bit would work better for me. The biggest financial setback I ever had was I had a divorce, and that really set me back financially.
All right. And then question number 5, advice you would give your younger self.
I would say definitely question everything. If everyone is going in the same direction, question why. Just because that's the case doesn't mean it's the right for you.
Huh. That's really interesting, Craig. I like that. Are there specific instances in your life where you did kind of follow the herd and that you regret it?
I mean, even as simple as buying a house. I thought that was just what you're supposed to do. I didn't question it. I didn't check any of the rates. I didn't do anything. I need to buy a house. That's what you do. That's what you're being a grown up. But if you don't even question that, I mean, you can question everything and just make sure that it's right for you. It may be right for you. It may not be right for you, but just question it.
I absolutely love that.
And Craig, we do have a bonus question for you. What is the purchase that you made over the past 12 months that has brought the most value to your life?
Well, that's easy. The tiny apartment. I mean, that's within the last 12 months that we've gotten more value out of it than anything else I could have ever purchased on Amazon.
Awesome. Can you share a couple pictures from the tiny home so we can put it in the show notes for today's episode?
Sure, without a doubt.
Craig, thank you so much for coming on the show today. This has been a blast.
Great. It was awesome. Thanks.
All right, guys, we're going to put a link to GreenSide Up Landscaping in the show notes for today's episode. If you're in Virginia, definitely give them a shout out. It's always cool to see business owners that are in our community and find out more about what they're doing. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you got value from it, and I hope you've been getting value from the episodes up to this point. If you want to support us in what we're doing here at Choose FI, here are 4 easy ways. 1, leave us an iTunes review. To do that, just go to choosefi.com/iTunes. 2, use our page to sign up for travel credit cards. If you want to travel the world with miles and points instead of your hard-earned dollars, then just go to choosefi.com/cards and get started today. 3, if you're working on the milestones of FI, set up a personal capital account to track your progress and use our affiliate link. It's completely free, and just go to choosefi.com/PC. P as in Paul, C as in cat. And 4, and most importantly, find your friends, coworkers, and family members who might be open to this message and tell them about the podcast. Have them start with episode 100. It is a fantastic starting place. All right, my friends, the fire is spreading. We'll see you next time as we continue to go down the road less traveled.
You've been listening to Choose FI Radio Podcast, where we help middle-class America build wealth, one life hack at a time.